Hello guys, welcome back. Today, I'm going to be making my final 2021 NHL standings, Stanley Cup, and awards predictions right here and right now. Now, actually, the NHL season is starting tomorrow, so I thought there was no better time to get my official predictions underway and the final predictions for this crazy upcoming season. So who do I see as being the best, the worst teams in the league? Who do I see winning all the awards? And who do I see eventually winning the Stanley Cup in the 2020-2021 NHL season? Watch till the end for all of the predictions, boys, and hit that subscribe button if you're new. 70% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed, so join the Grab Gang if you haven't already for more predictions videos just like this. So I'm going to waste zero time getting into this, if that's all right with y'all, because we have a lot to talk about here today. But we're going to start out with the standings predictions for this upcoming season. We're going to go through all four of these divisions, and I'm going to be predicting where they will place by the end of it, and then afterwards we'll get into the Stanley Cup final and who I see winning the Stanley Cup as well. But we're going to start out today with the East Division, which I'm still having trouble not saying Metro, but it is called the East Division for this next season. And we're going to work our way up basically from 8th to number 1. And in the last place in the East Division at number 8, I have the New Jersey Devils. I see them finishing with 43 points on the year, still being an alright team, but definitely being more on the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the NHL. And in my early predictions, I had them getting about like 6 or more points or so, but I think the loss of Corey Crawford will definitely hurt them quite a bit. Sadly, he retired, and I think that tandem looks a lot worse because of it. I'm still a major Mackenzie Blackwood fan, but they really have nobody else to fill that role, and they have almost no backup plans. Then going on to number 7, at the 7th spot in the East, I have the Buffalo Sabres finishing at this spot. I have them finishing around 54 points-ish, maybe a little bit lower, but I have them around a point per game, which is still pretty good considering the competition in this division. But just like the New Jersey Devils, I really don't see them having too much of a chance just because of the division that they're in. There's just a lot of competition in this one, and I really don't see the Sabres being competitive on a consistent basis. I would love to be wrong. This is probably the best division they've ever been in the past decade or so, and they have not made the playoffs in the last decade or so. So maybe Taylor Hall brings them to playoff contention. Maybe they get close, but in the end, I just don't see it happening. But now we can go on to number 6, the 6th spot in the Metro Division, and really these next couple of spots are really highly contested for me because I think both of these teams are still really good teams, but will end up missing the playoffs this next year. Coming in at number 6, I have the New York Rangers. It's sad to say, but I think the Rangers kind of got screwed a little bit by this division format. Sure, if they were in the normal Metro, it still would have been a very tough division to be in, but they have some major contenders to play with, and I'm really not sure if this is the year that they truly advance into contender status. It could end up happening, especially depending on the performance of Lafreniere and Shesterkin and the young guys they have, but I just don't know if it's enough right now. Then going on to my number 5 spot, I'm going to go to yet another New York team in the New York Islanders. I see them finishing with the same amount of points as the New York Rangers with 64, and being, again, a really solid team. It's just, I'm not sure if they're able to fully get in there. Now, if Matthew Barzal did not re-sign, then I think there was almost no chance the Islanders made the playoffs, but he did re-sign, and that is huge for them, and I still think, again, they'll be a very good team. I mean, 64 points in a 56-game pace is not too bad. But now we're going to go on to the top 4 spots in the East, and the 4 teams that will make the playoffs, and going on to my 4th spot, I have the Boston Bruins. I see them finishing with 68 points on the year, and being a team that does make the playoffs. The thing is here, it really does depend on the health of the 2 big guys in Marchand and Pastrnak. It seems like Marchand will be healthy for the start of the season, which is key, and also David Pastrnak, it doesn't seem like will be out for too long to start the year, which is definitely important there. But I think the Boston Bruins is a transitional year for them a little bit. I don't think they'll be at the top of their division or the top in the league, but I still think they will be a playoff team. Then going on to number 3, I have, finishing in the 3rd spot, getting the bronze medal in the East, the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think the Pittsburgh Penguins will actually do pretty solid this year. I have them finishing with 69 points right now. Very nice record, by the way. And honestly, even though roster-wise, I don't think the Penguins are extremely strong, I think Sullivan's going to put out a fantastic coaching year in this one. And I think, honestly, they'll have some pretty good rebound years, too. If Jake Gensel's healthy, that's a huge thing. But they got quite a few solid players, and I really think that Tristan Jarry will continue his fantastic play from last year. Honestly, it might be silly, but I think the Matheson and CC pairing, for how dumb it might be, might actually work. And I think, honestly, ironically, I think Mike Matheson will actually have a pretty good year in Pittsburgh. We'll see what happens, but I think regular season-wise, at least, Pittsburgh will still be a good team. Then going on to number 2, I have their rivals and Sidney Crosby's rivals in the Washington Capitals. I see them being a little bit of a tier above the Pittsburgh Penguins, finishing with around 73 points or so, but I still see the Washington Capitals doing pretty good. I don't see them winning the division, even though it could happen. I think Washington will kind of hurt a little bit because of some of the interesting acquisitions they made. I don't think they've had a bad offseason, but it's been an interesting direction, basically going all old guys besides Connor Sherry, I guess. I still think they'll be a great team, and that experience will help them in the playoffs, but regular season-wise, I'm not sure if they'll be good enough to win the division. Speaking of the division winners, this year I have, at number 1, the Philadelphia Flyers. I have them finishing with about 75 points on the year, and being a team that barely wins the division, but does end up winning it in the end. I see Philadelphia doing very well this year. I think the big loss that will hurt them will be Matt Niskanen, but I think Carter Hart will have a big regular season after the amazing playoffs they had last year. And I think that forward group will see some rebound years. I mean, JVR hopefully will be healthy there. Nolan Patrick will hopefully be healthy. Giroux will have another good year there. Connecting will continue to be fantastic. Jurier might win another Selke trophy. They still got a lot of fantastic talents, and I think you'll see that throughout the whole season. But we're now going to go to the Central Division, and this is easily one of the most interesting, and if we're being honest, the worst division in the NHL, but there is still some fantastic talent, and for me, as I discussed a little bit before, I think there's 3 tiers in this division. You have the bottom tier, you have the middler tier, and then you have the top teams at the top. And to me, I really don't see too much movement besides those tiers, but there's a lot of movement within those tiers, if that makes any sense at all. But we're going to start out today at the number 8 spot, the last spot in the Central. I'm going to go with the Chicago Blackhawks. I know there is a team that we'll get into next at number 7 that some people will expect to be better or worse than Chicago, but I just see this being just a terrible luck year for Chicago, and it already has kind of been that way with the injuries of Taves, with the injuries of Doc, with the injuries of Nylander. We're now going to go on to the 7th team right after the Chicago Blackhawks. I'm going to go with the Detroit Red Wings. I don't see the Detroit being as bad as Chicago. I see them being pretty close in terms of points percentage and actual points on the board, but I don't think they're going to be the worst team in this division. I see them finishing with around 42 points, being a point above the Chicago Blackhawks, and just getting that spot. Now, they'll still be one of the worst teams in the league and bottom 5 in the standings, but I'm not sure if they get the last spot in the league. It could totally happen, but we'll see. I really love the acquisitions they made, though, especially the acquisitions of Troy Stecher, Thomas Greiss, Nemestikov, Bobby Ryan. I think will definitely help them regular season-wise. Again, this is not a playoff or even a contending playoff team, but I think they will play a little bit of spoiler down the road, and I don't think will be as bad as many do predict. But now we can go on to the 2nd tier in this division, the middling tier, and we're going to start out that tier with number 6, and this is probably one of my harder takes, I would say, in this standings predictions, but I think this team is just going to underwhelm once again, that being the Nashville Predators. Now, as a Dallas Stars fan, I know predicting the Preds to miss the playoffs is kind of a little bit biased there, but I really don't see the Preds doing much this season. I think there's some really gaping holes on that team, and maybe not too many subtle ones, but I think as you could kind of tell since that 2018 President's Trophy, something's kind of just off with that Nashville franchise in general. Then going on to number 5, though, a team that is just going to miss the playoffs, but I still see being pretty solid in the standings, that being the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, I could totally see a situation where Columbus does sneak into that 4th spot, and I could totally see that by the end of the year, but I don't know. I feel like there's just some concerns with that overall team talent-wise, and I think you'll kind of see that during the regular season. And again, I think they have a strong shot, especially if that goaltending replicates with probably from what they had last year to this year. That will be the huge thing. And if they play the same kind of defensive style, I think it will work. They haven't had much losses besides New Navarra, I guess, and they still got the same team pretty much, but I think it'll kind of just be overwhelmed by some of the top teams in this league or in this division, and I think number 5 is pretty much perfect for them. Now going on to the number 4 spot, we're now going to get into the teams that actually do make the playoffs, and I'm going to start at the number 4 spot with the Florida Panthers. I cannot talk today, sorry about that, but With the Florida Panthers at number 4, by the way, I predict the Blue Jackets to get around 65 points. I would say the Panthers around 67 right there. Again, being pretty close, but I do see the Panthers doing rather well, beating up on some of the smaller teams in this division. But the big thing for me is just Sergei Bobrovsky. I mean, if he can have another bad year, then Florida might be out of the playoff picture, and Columbus could easily grab that spot. But if Bobrovsky really does rebound, I could see Florida doing well. But now inside the top 3, I'm going to start out at the 3rd spot with my favorite team, the Dallas Stars. I see them finishing right now with around 69 points. Very nice, I know, but being a couple of points better than Florida and a few points better than Columbus, I see them still doing very well this season. I mean, they will miss the because of the injuries of Bishop and Tyler Seguin. They will miss some added star power there, no pun intended. But I think they'll have some pretty solid rookies come up, with Jake Andre maybe in that backup position besides Hudobin, and coming up maybe Jason Robertson on that wing. Maybe Ty Dellandrea also factors in there too. I think Dallas will have some great depth though in this upcoming season. They do lose Corey Perry, but regular season wise, I don't think that'll hurt them too much. I still think they'll be a very solid team and will be a playoff team by the end of this. Then going on to my number 2 team, this is really where we get into the top tier of this division, and I'm going to start out with the Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, I think Carolina could win this division if regular season wise they do fantastic, obviously, but I still think there are some big problems when it comes to goaltending. When they're on their game, Mrazek is great, but it's just not enough, I think, to be one of the best in the league, let's say. I think they're kind of middle of the pack when it comes to goaltending, which is fine with the defense they have and the great forward group they have, and I still think they're going to be great, but I think that goaltending, unless it gets going out of nowhere, will still hold them back regular season and playoffs wise. But now we can get into the best team, the number 1 team in this Central Division, and I only really see them being a couple of points ahead of Carolina. Carolina, I would say, with 78 points, and the Tampa Bay Lightning with 80 points on the year. I see them finishing at the 2nd spot in the league and still being a fantastic regular season team. Even though they do lose Nikita Kucherov, I still think they're going to be pretty great this year, and I think you'll see it kind of supplemented. Obviously, they're going to hurt from Kucherov being out, but they still have some amazing players there to come up. Now we're going to go on to the West Division, and I'm going to start out today with the worst spot in the West, and in my opinion, the team that'll be the worst team in the NHL this year, I have the LA Kings. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of LA Kings fans saying that'll never happen. Guys, I'm predicting the best case scenario for y'all. I think the youth will definitely come up and be great. Guys like Byfield, Turcotte, Velarde will be major factors in that forward group. I think Cal Peterson will have a solid year. On that defense, you might see Bjornfot come up, Mikey Anderson as well on that D. And I see the youth doing rather well. It's just the depth I will see kind of failing them and the luck just not going their way. Then going on to number 7, though, we can now continue the California team trend at the bottom of the standings, and I have the Anaheim Ducks. Now, I don't see the Anaheim Ducks being as bad as LA, and I see kind of the luck going in opposite directions. I see the luck going in Anaheim's way quite a bit compared to LA not really going too much, but I see Anaheim doing rather well. I think John Gibson will have a major rebound year and keep them from being the worst in the standings. I think that defense, I think we'll see some improvements. Hampus Lindholm will continue to be good. Hopefully Cam Fowler will be healthy, and the big one is Ricardo Raquel. He's been just off his game, it seems like, these past couple of years, and if he's able to have a rebound year, get back to that 2017 self, then I think that offense will definitely be rejuvenated, and hopefully we'll see some big offense from guys like Sam Steele, Trevor Zegras, hopefully factoring in big this next season. Then going on to number 6, though, I'm going to go next to the San Jose Sharks. I see them finishing with about 55 points, being around a point per game, but obviously not being good enough to make the playoffs. I see San Jose being decent. The big thing is that goaltending tandem might end up being the worst in the league, but I don't know if that'll factor in too much because it was still pretty bad last year. But I think the forward group will definitely get a lot better, hopefully a lot more healthy, and that defense, the same thing. I mean, if Erik Karlsson can get back to the level he was at just a few years ago, then I think this is a much different San Jose team, but still, in the end, not a team that makes the playoffs. But we're now going to go on to number 5, a team that I think is just going to miss the playoffs here, and it's sad to say, but I even though they haven't gotten worse in any way, and I still think points-wise they'll do pretty well, I just don't see them making the playoffs in this division, especially with the 4 teams ahead of them, that being the Arizona Coyotes. Now, again, they've had a lot of drama, but they've basically not changed whatsoever in terms of roster. If Darcy Kemper can be healthy, then I think they might have a decent shot, but I still don't think this is a team that can truly compete in that division with the top end guys there. I think they'll be decent, around 59 points or so, but again, not good enough to make the playoffs. We're now going to go on to the 4 teams that will make the playoffs in this division. And I'm now going to go to probably my hottest take in this year's standings predictions, the number 4 and number 3 spot in this division. And at number 4 in the West, I have the St. Louis Blues. Now, I still see them finishing with a pretty good record overall, 70 points on the year. But I see one team that I think is kind of going underrated right now, really doing well this season and getting past them just barely. But with St. Louis, I think the acquisitions of Mike Hoffman will help them. I think losing Pietrangelo definitely hurts them, but they do get, obviously, Torrey Krug, who I think, especially on the power play, is going to be a major factor offensively. I think they'll still do very well this year, but it will kind of be a little bit of a transitional year as well, with some of the youth guys really doing the best for them. Oh, and also, Tarasenko being out long-term, I think will hurt them a lot more this year compared to last year, for instance. But we're now going to go on to the number 3 spot in this division, and this is where my hot take begins. And if you disagree with this, that's perfectly fine. But at number 3, I have the Minnesota Wild. Now, I see them actually tying with St. Louis points-wise with 70, but getting that tiebreaker in the end and doing very well this season. I think Minnesota might be one of the most underrated teams in the league right now, and I don't know how popular of an opinion that is, but I really see them having a solid year. The main thing for me is how that goaltending shakes out and also how that center group shakes out, because I don't think it's on the top end of teams. But Nick Bonino was really solid last year, and if he can really have a solid year again for Minnesota, especially some of the guys he's playing with, then I think that'll work out. And who knows what Nick Bjugstad goes and does with his hometown team. But for me, the big thing is going to be the youth and the defense, with Kirill Kaprizov, who I think will most likely win the Calder Trophy this year, especially him being on that first line, it seems like already, which is huge. Kevin Fiala, if he continues what he had in the second half last year, I think he could be brilliant on that top 6, and especially on that power play, will be huge there. Parise will be once again good. You'll have a lot of great guys there. Hopefully Zuccarello will be back throughout the year sometime soon. But that defense, I think, is one of the best in the league and will want to again have a great year. If Matthew Dumba can also have a rebound year and get back to that amazing power play level he was at a few years ago, then that's an even bigger story there. But the goaltending, I think, has improved. If Cam Talbot can have the second half he had in Calgary, in Minnesota, then that's amazing for them, and hopefully Kaapo Kähkönen can come into the NHL and be great, which I think he can be. He can be a starter, I think, and hopefully will serve that backup role quite well. I think Minnesota will do fantastic, but a lot of it does depend on Kirill Kaprizov. If he has a good year like I think he can, then I think Minnesota will be a playoff team and could get as high as that 3rd spot. Now we're going to go on to the top 2 spots, though, in the West, and I think these are pretty much tied for me in terms of being the top 2 teams. They could go either way, but at number 2, I have the Vegas Golden Knights. I see them finishing over around 77 points in the year, doing very, very well this year, but not getting that number 1 spot. Now, for Vegas, they obviously add Pietrangelo, they get rid of Paul Stastny, and I'm not really sure what to make of Vegas because they didn't really need offensive defensemen. I still think defense, it can still be a little bit of a problem for them, and they needed a top-end, top 6 center, and they have just given up one in Paul Stastny. But we're going to go on to the best team in the West, and I'm not sure, I don't think this is a hot take. It's the Colorado Avalanche. I see them actually finishing with the President's Trophy, 81 points on the year, being fantastic, and there's really no explanation needed here. I mean, they're the Colorado Avalanche. They're going to be fantastic. Now, I'm going to kind of skim over my North, aka All-Canadian Division predictions. I mean, if we're being honest here, I think the division starts after the Ottawa Senators at number 7. I see them finishing with about 45 points in the year. I still think they'll be solid, but especially towards the end of the year, we'll kind of lose some steam there. But I think the division really starts at number 6. And honestly, throughout this number 6 to number 1, I think all these teams are solid teams. And I think there will be a few that will just have to miss the playoffs in this instance. But at number 6, I have the Winnipeg Jets. I see them finishing around a point per game with about 58 points or so, but they didn't add to that defense. I think Paul Stastny is a good acquisition, but they're still terrible defensively. They're still absolutely horrendous. And unless they get a miracle rebound season from Morrissey, unless they get a fantastic Calder Trophy year out of Ville Heinola, it's still going to be absolute trash. And Connor Hellebuyck is still going to be left to dry. And if he doesn't replicate the season he had last year, it's going to be a disaster for them, I think, on D. Then going on to number 5, though, I have the Vancouver Canucks. This is a team that I do see taking a step back and missing the playoffs, but I think it is kind of needed to get back to that playoff contention a year afterwards. I think this is just a year that Jim Benning kind of forced upon them. Losing Chris Tanev is a huge loss on and off the ice. Losing Jacob Markstrom, I think, is going to be tremendously big for them. I think Holtby will be all right. I think Demko will be all right as well, but I just don't think they'll be able to replace that. The defense, I think, is going to be interesting. Nate Schmidt, I think, will be an add, but even him he's on the more offensive side when it comes to defensemen. And on defense, they really didn't add too much unless Jack Rathbone comes and is absolutely amazing, which I don't know if it'll happen right off the gate. I do see some amazing years, though. I think Pettersson's going to be great. I think Hughes is going to be great. I think Brock Besser will have a great season. Hopefully Nils Hoglander will factor in. And I still see them being a good team, around 60 points or so, but not being able to make the playoffs, unfortunately. Then going on to number 4, though, we can now go on to the teams that will make the playoffs. And at number 4, I have the Edmonton Oilers. Now, I see the Oilers finishing with around 63 points, doing very well this season. I'm not sure if they'll get in that top 2 position, though. But I do like the direction that they're heading in still. They had a solid regular season last year. Kind of got screwed by that playoff format and lost versus the Blackhawks. But I still see them doing well. The big thing is just goaltending, man. Mike Smith is horrible, and they signed him for a year and like $1.5 million for no reason. Koskinen is all right, but he will have to have a big rebound year to kind of save this team. Losing Clefbaum hurts, but I do think the Barrie acquisition will help them. And I like some of the smaller moves there. They get back Puljujärvi. They bring in Kyle Turris, which I think will help them, but it's largely the same team, but still a pretty solid team nonetheless. At number 3, I have the Calgary Flames. This is a team that I could see getting number 2 in the division, but I'm still going to stick with my top 3 I had in the early predictions. At number 3, I have the Flames. I have them around 67 points, doing very well this year, and I see the Flames potentially being the best team in terms of the playoffs in this division, and I still see them doing great. I think the Tanev acquisition helps them, but especially that Markstrom acquisition, especially for these first few years, they finally have a starter they can actually trust long term, which is an absolute relief for all Flames fans out there. But we're now going to go on to the top 2 between Toronto and Montreal, and at number 2, I'm going to go with the Montreal Canadiens in this all-Canadian division. I see them finishing with 68 points on the year, doing very, very solid. And they might be a team just like Calgary that could be the best out of the playoff teams in this all-Canadian division. And they might be the best set up for that at least. But I think they're going to have a strong year when it comes to pretty much everything. I think a lot is going to work out for them on the forward group, on defense. Hopefully Carey Price will have another solid year there too. And I think defensively they have improved quite a bit as well just in general. And hopefully we'll see some more good years out of Petrie and out of Weber as well. So I think Montreal's going to do well, but not quite number 1. That leaves us with the Toronto Maple Leafs at the first spot. And again, I don't know if playoff-wise are going to be as successful as a Calgary or a Montreal, but I think they will finish with 69 points on the year, and I think they'll do very solid here. I think Freddie Anderson might have a rebound year. I really love the acquisition of TJ Brodie. I think he's going to be huge for that defense. And hey, Jumbo Joe Thornton with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. I absolutely love that. And just give me that for 56 games. That's all right by me. But we're now going to get into the conference final predictions for the Stanley Cup Final, and no, you did not just fast forward the video. We're going to start out with just the conference finals. I'm not going to predict all 4 rounds, but how this year's playoffs will work is that it'll be the first 2 rounds will be interdivisional play. So let's take, for instance, the All-Canadian division. If it goes how I predicted, Toronto would face Edmonton, and then Montreal would face Calgary in the first round, and then whoever wins those 2 matchups would face in the second round, and whoever wins that matchup will go on to the conference finals. And how the conference finals are situated, because we have no conferences this year, is that it'll be reseeded. So, for instance, with Toronto, or let's just take the division winners, I got Colorado, Tampa, I got Philadelphia, and I got Toronto. So let's say that in terms of actual reseeding there, let's say that all 4 of those teams do make the conference finals, then it would go Colorado versus, I think it would be Toronto there, then it would be, I think it would be Tampa versus Philadelphia at that point, but that's if all 4 of those teams do make the conference finals, but it would be reseeded at that point, and then of course whoever wins those 2 matchups would end up going to the Stanley Cup Final and meeting at the final matchup. So it's basically reseeding and interdivisional play up until the conference final, and then we get into the real business there. So I'm going to go to the conference final. It basically is who I see being the best team playoff-wise out of each division, and I'm going to have one big hot take. For the 3 rest of the teams, I don't really have too much craziness. But for my conference finals, for the best team in the conference finals and the number 1 seed, the Colorado Avalanche will face the 4th seed, and that 4th seed will be the Montreal Canadiens. I see these two teams facing off in the conference finals and be an absolute duel right to the very end. For the other conference final matchup, I have a less hot topic there. I have the Tampa Bay Lightning with the 2nd seed and the Philadelphia Flyers with the 3rd seed. So Montreal's the only team in my conference finals that did not win their division, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory why I don't see Toronto getting into the conference finals. Hopefully sometime soon, but I don't see it being that year to go that far. Hey, win a round and then we can talk when it comes to conference finals. But in terms of those 4 teams and those 2 matchups, I see the Colorado Avalanche winning against the Montreal Canadiens and the Philadelphia Flyers winning against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Yes, I think Tampa's the better team, but I think Philadelphia will have a strong playoffs, and Carter Hart could be on his way to a Conn Smythe Trophy. But then we go on to the Stanley Cup final in the 2021 Stanley Cup playoffs between the Colorado Avalanche and the Philadelphia Flyers. And even as a Stars fan, I got to admit the Avs have the best roster. I think they'll win the President's Trophy and will lift the President's Trophy curse, winning the 2021 Stanley Cup and being the best team undeniably in 2021. Now, I do end up seeing the Avs winning in 5, but now we're going to go on to the NHL awards, and we're just kind of gloss over some of my award winners. I see the Hart Trophy going to Nathan MacKinnon, the Calder Trophy going to Kirill Kaprizov of the Minnesota Wild, the Art Ross Trophy going to Nathan MacKinnon. In terms of the Norris Trophy, I see Charlie McAvoy finally getting the respect that he deserves and getting the number 1 spot. Might not get the most points, but I think could be top 5, especially if he's given the power play responsibilities, with Krug going to St. Louis. In terms of my Vezina Trophy winner, I see Carter Hart securing it and having a great regular season and playoffs for Philly. In terms of the Conn Smythe Trophy, Nathan MacKinnon will win it in the end. I have a couple also different categories. I have the most improved player and the greatest comeback. Most improved player will go to my boy Capo Caco, and the greatest comeback will go to Nolan Patrick, who will have a great spot on the forward group for Philly, and I think we'll have a pretty solid, reliable season. Let's hope, because the guy absolutely deserves it. But yeah, that'll be it for today, guys. If you're still watching at this point, thanks so much for watching. Get some Roman Polak for Norris hype in the comments if you're still watching at this point. But if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and hit that notification bell to be notified on all the new videos and all the live streams going live. Make sure you comment down below all your thoughts. What do you agree and disagree with my rankings, and who do you see winning the Stanley Cup at the end of this season, and your standings predictions as well. Make sure you share this video with your friends, get it out there, and click on this card for all of my predictions and picks videos right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. Thanks so much for watching. Hockey is almost back, and I'll see you in the next video or stream. Goodbye.